Exploring Kant's philosophy, sensitivity, mind, reason, and the limits of understanding. Immanuel Kant revolutionized philosophy by challenging the very foundation of how we understand reality and human experience. In this journey through his ideas, we'll uncover the intricate ways Kant's philosophy bridges mind and sensitivity. With his formal method, Kant set out to answer fundamental questions. How do we truly know the world? What shapes our experience and understanding? And most importantly, what are the boundaries of human reason? To understand Kant's philosophy, we must step into the intellectual battlefield that preceded him. On one side stood the rationalists, led by thinkers like René Descartes and Gottfried Leibniz, who argued that reason is the primary source of knowledge. On the other side were the empiricists, like John Locke and David Hume, who claimed that our knowledge arises exclusively from sensory experience. Kant saw flaws in both positions. Rationalism, he believed, overlooked the crucial role that sensory input plays in our understanding of the world. Empiricism, on the other hand, underestimated the mind's active role in shaping that sensory data. Kant's solution? A revolutionary new approach he called the Copernican revolution in philosophy. Much like Copernicus shifted our view of the universe by placing the sun, not the earth, at its center, Kant shifted the focus of philosophy from the external world to the workings of the mind itself. He proposed that human understanding is not a simple mirror reflecting reality. Instead, the mind actively organizes and interprets sensory data using inherent structures and categories. This insight led to one of Kant's most profound ideas: the distinction between phenomenon and noumenon. The phenomenon is the world as we experience it, filtered and shaped by our mind's structures. The noumenon, however, is the world as it exists in itself, beyond the reach of our perception. Kant argued that we can never directly access the noumenon, and this marks the limit of human knowledge. According to Kant, knowledge arises from the interplay of two distinct faculties: sensitivity and mind. Sensitivity refers to our ability to receive raw data from the external world through our senses. For example, your eyes detect colors and shapes, or your ears process sounds. But raw sensory input alone would be chaotic without the mind's intervention. Kant identified two essential components in our sensitivity to the way we perceive the world: space and time. He considered them to be forms of intuition, mental frameworks that structure how we perceive sensory data. Space organizes our external perceptions, allowing us to understand objects as existing in relation to one another. Time, on the other hand, orders experiences sequentially, enabling us to grasp change, duration, and continuity. Importantly, Kant argued that space and time are not features of the external world itself, but rather conditions of how we, as humans, perceive it. Enter mind, the faculty that organizes and synthesizes sensory data into coherent experiences. The mind does so by applying innate structures called categories of understanding, which united in four groups: quantity, quality, relation, and modality. For Kant, this interplay between sensory data and mental categories is the foundation of all human experience. What are these categories Kant speaks of? Think of them as the mind's universal tools for making sense of the world. For instance, when you see a ball rolling across a table, you automatically perceive it as an ongoing event caused by a push or pull. You don't consciously create this understanding. It's the mind's built-in structure at work. Without these categories, Kant argued, we might still perceive sensations, but would be unable to process or comprehend them. The world would appear to us as a meaningless blur. These categories are not derived from experience. They exist a priori, meaning they are fundamental principles of the mind itself. While Kant's system explains the phenomenon, the world as we experience it, it also raises an unsettling question: what about the noumenon? By acknowledging the existence of things in themselves, beyond our sensory and mental reach, Kant simultaneously celebrated and humbled human understanding. Our cognitive faculties, no matter how sophisticated, are limited to the phenomenal realm. The noumenal world remains forever out of reach. For Kant, this limitation was not a failure, but an important philosophical insight. Human reason must recognize its bounds. Kant explored these limitations further in his concept of antinomies, paradoxes that arise when human reason ventures beyond the phenomenal world. These conflicts reveal the contradictions inherent in trying to understand the ultimate nature of reality. Take, for example, the question of the universe's origin. Using reason, one might argue that the universe must have a beginning in time. But reason can equally propose that the universe is eternal, with no beginning. For Kant, antinomies like this one demonstrate the limits of speculative metaphysics. Reason, no matter how powerful, falters when it seeks to grasp realities outside human experience. All these ideas culminate in Kant's theory of transcendental idealism. This framework suggests that reality, as we experience it, is a construction of the perceiving mind. While the external world exists independently of us, our experience of it is shaped by the mind's innate structures, categories, and forms of sensitivity or pure sensitive intuitions, time and space. This idea doesn't mean that reality is an illusion. Rather, it emphasizes that we cannot access reality as it exists in itself. Everything we know is mediated by the interplay of the external world and our cognitive faculties. Though most of this discussion centers on Kant's theory of knowledge, it's worth noting how these ideas influence his moral philosophy. Kant believed that just as the mind constructs reality, reason constructs morality. His famous categorical imperative, a universal principle guiding ethical action, emerged from his conviction that rational beings are capable of objective moral reasoning. Kant's philosophy remains relevant today because he addressed enduring questions about human understanding. His insights paved the way for modern science by showing how our mental frameworks shape the way we interpret phenomena. In fields like quantum physics, where the boundaries of observation and reality blur, Kant's ideas about perception resonate deeply. Moreover, his recognition of the limits of reason is a powerful reminder of intellectual humility. In an age dominated by rapid scientific and technological advances, Kant's philosophy challenges us to reach for knowledge while acknowledging the mysteries that remain beyond our grasp. Kant's ideas extend beyond academia. They invite us to reflect on our own experiences. For instance, what assumptions shape your understanding of the world? How do your mind's categories and intuitions influence the way you interpret events? Recognizing these mental patterns can deepen self-awareness and foster critical thinking. Kant also teaches us the value of embracing uncertainty. Much like the boundary between noumenon and phenomenon, there are aspects of life we may never fully comprehend. But rather than despair, Kant encourages us to marvel at the profound complexity of existence. Immanuel Kant's philosophy challenges us to see the world and our minds in a new light. By uncovering the structures that shape our experience, he reminds us that understanding is both powerful and limited. His work inspires us to question assumptions, embrace intellectual humility, and explore the limitless potential of reason within its bounds. For philosophy enthusiasts, these ideas are not just abstract theories, but a gateway to deeper self-awareness and intellectual growth. So, as we close this exploration, we leave you with a simple yet profound invitation. What will you discover when you look inward to explore the architecture of your own mind?